Welcome to Divine Couples. Your host, Naomi Slater, will awaken your passion, deepen your intimacy, and invite healing into your relationships, working towards accessing higher levels of consciousness in all areas of your life. Come with us on this journey to explore and experience your fullest potential.
You are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Naomi Slater, and you have tuned in to Divine Couples, adding intimacy, passion, and healing to your lives. So today I'm going to talk about the effects of porn. I know that this is a pretty big issue. And I think for the most part, people realize that porn is no good, but does that keep you from watching it? Probably not. I get it. Sometimes people want a quick fix, but how do you feel afterwards? After you watch porn, do you feel satisfied? Do you feel loved, relaxed, peaceful? Probably not really. The reality is that the way sex is portrayed on porn is pretty much the exact opposite of fulfilling and healthy lovemaking. So, of course, sex is being portrayed as being incredibly exciting. Penetration happens pretty quickly. And then it's just hard thrusting after that. The woman is, quote unquote, wildly enjoying, or at least that's how she's perceived to be, the hard pumping, and has an orgasm pretty quickly. The guy comes, and that's pretty much the end. So for most women, in order to feel turned on, they need much more foreplay and erotic touch to get to the point where they're really ready for penetration. The hard thrusting is actually, for most women, not enjoyable. It can be for short periods of time, but the gentle slowness of a loving fuck can be way more gratifying and can bring her to a deeper, full-body orgasm that also creates deeper intimacy and awareness. And really, the hard thrusting that's displayed in porn is quite harmful. So I just watched a video of a former porn star who said that she had to stop recording these porn videos because when she went to the doctor, she was feeling a lot of pain, and she ended up actually tearing her cervix from this hard thrusting that you see on porn, and her bladder was essentially beaten up from the pounding. And of course, she was in a tremendous amount of pain. So although this is what's being displayed, that the woman is, like I said, wildly enjoying this hard pumping, that the reality is that it's actually not enjoyable, and in a lot of cases actually really just creates physical injury. It's quite sad. On average, women take between 13 to 20 minutes to reach orgasm from the start of the sexual encounter, with some not even being able to reach orgasm at all. And that's not because they're not able to physically. It's just that they don't really understand the energetics of orgasm. Orgasm is actually an energetic event. Men on average take between 5 to 6 minutes. So even though in porn you see the women getting hot and heavy very quickly, the reality is actually quite different. And I'm sure that the majority of people listening know that, especially women. Maybe men are not as aware, but women definitely know that in order for them to really feel fully ready for penetration, it's just not a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am thing for her to really feel good and really wanting the sexual encounter. So in many real-life sexual encounters, the guy is so revved up sexually and overly excited, many of them are also used to watching porn, that the foreplay is short and they ejaculate quickly. And this leaves the woman feeling unsatisfied. She doesn't even have the chance to really enjoy the encounter or reach orgasm for that matter. So tantric lovemaking takes the goal out of the act. It's not about reaching orgasm. It's not about ejaculating. It's about being present and feeling the pleasure in the moment. And when the men learn how to connect to their breath and control their PC muscles, they can hold off on ejaculating And for many men, this at first sounds terrible, like the whole point of sex is being taken away from them. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's just that they have been conditioned into thinking that this is how you have sex. The pleasurable goal is the end result of ejaculation. And once men learn to move their energy upwards, away from their genitals, and learn to stay present in the act, they can actually become master lovers. Their stamina increases and they are able to relax during penetration as opposed to being overly excited, thrusting, and then coming quickly. Now, of course, women also have a part to play in this. It's a two-way street. Women need to really work on learning to activate their sexual energy and awaken their desire, because what I see in a lot of women is that their sexual energy or fire is kind of asleep. So women need to work on really developing a self-love practice, and that's something that I, of course, help women do in order for them to reawaken their desire, to have them reawaken their sexual energy and fire, so that they can have a fulfilling intimate encounter with their partner. Now, another thing about porn is that it portrays people having to act in a sexy way or do sexual things that they think pleases the other. And in tantric sex, each person does what makes them feel good. So each person is essentially focused on their own pleasure and deepening their presence into their pleasure. So a great lover is someone who is totally present in their lovemaking. It's actually a form of meditation, and they are able to stay in the truth of the moment. So anybody who practices Tantra that isn't also practicing meditation is not really practicing Tantra. Fulfilling lovemaking and tantric lovemaking is really another form of meditation, where the goal is really to connect with your innermost self and feel this kind of loss of your physical body, and to experience this kind of bliss and divine unity, which is something that you can experience both through Tantra and through meditation. So they're actually really one and the same, but you need to be practicing meditation to really be able to fully connect to this tantric form of lovemaking, which is really just another form of meditation. So in addition to porn not conveying healthy and desirable sexual dynamics, researchers are also discovering that it can become addictive. Porn acts really like a drug in the brain, and it activates regions involved in drug, nicotine, and alcohol addictions. Now, researchers have found that young men ranging from the ages of 18 to 25 have been experiencing higher rates of ED, or erectile dysfunction, with no underlying physical reason for them to experience this difficulty. And what they found was that the common denominator for these men was high consumption and daily viewing of porn. Now, of course, not everyone who views porn becomes addictive, but it can become addictive with detrimental effects to one's ability to have healthy sexual encounters. And it also programs the brain into internalizing sexual patterns, which take people farther away from creating deep intimacy. So I view this really as, it's a big issue with people that are addicted to porn, because what happens is they get kind of overly excited through viewing porn, and some of that porn is also violent. I'm not even getting into really, really violent porn, and that's what becomes their kind of brain patterning when it comes to sexual encounters. And then they try to bring that into the bedroom with their partner, and of course their partner, doesn't really feel good to them. And they're actually not even interested so much in their partner, because the porn becomes so overly exciting that when they get the real deal, it actually doesn't excite them. So porn, not only is it addictive for lots of people, but it also wires people's brains in a way that really pulls them further away from having deep, meaningful, intimate sexual encounters. And what does this mean for our youth? So I think for a lot of young people, their first encounters with sexuality are through porno. They watch it through the internet, and that's where they're kind of learning their tricks. And of course, there's a much higher rate of rape from youngsters than I think there ever was. And I attribute that personally to viewing porno, because porn is really quite violent. And then they're trying to live that out in their real life sexual encounters. So I think it's very detrimental to our youth, and I don't think that modern day sex education is really helping there so much. I had a parent tell me recently that the way that their children received sex education in 5th grade was that they separated the boys from the girls, and the girls actually had a male educator teach them about female sex education, which I found very strange. If you're going to separate the boys from the girls, then at least have a female teaching the girls and a male teaching the boys, right? If you're going to separate them. And what I also thought was very strange is that they talked about the female reproductive system, not primarily, but only. There was absolutely no education related to the clitoris, the vagina, the clitoris, really, the labia, which is the center for female pleasure. So it was really, what kind of message is this sending to our girls? The message that it's sending is that your sexuality, revolves solely around your ability to reproduce and create babies, and has absolutely nothing to do with pleasure, and that really your pleasure is not important, which is probably not the message that the educators are trying to send. But I think that there's so much shame and guilt around female pleasure that they just don't address it. And then essentially that's what these young girls are absorbing when they're receiving this kind of an education. So I don't know what it looked like on the boys' side, but this was just, from talking to a parent who knows that was what her child experienced. So I find that very sad, and I really think that there needs to be an overhaul in terms of sex education for youth. But of course, it starts also with, adults that don't really understand what it means to be in their pleasure body, that don't really understand the inner workings of having deep, intimate, pleasurable sexual encounters that are not based on trying to look a certain way or perform a certain way or reach the end result of orgasm or ejaculation. So the way that in general we've all been educated around our sexuality is very limiting, and I think has a lot to do with why people just feel overall kind of not happy with their lives, with their relationships and their marriages. I really feel like this is such a missing piece for people in feeling healthy and happy in their lives. So that's something that I really think we need to work on, is how we're educating our youth around sexuality. And I also wanted to talk a bit about the censorship around sexual content. And this is something that I'm experiencing, and a lot of other people in my field are experiencing, unfortunately, because, we're trying to educate